Welcome in to the Punt and Pass podcast. I'm your host, Drew Butler, joined alongside my co-host, Jake Fromm. Be sure to follow us on social media. We're at Punt and Pass on X and Instagram. I'm at Drew Butler. He's at Fromm Jake. Puntandpass.com, the number one destination for all things college football. Well, the season is wrapping up, Jake Fromm. The college football playoff national championship game is coming up this Monday night right here in Atlanta, Georgia. And, of course, there's not an SEC team involved. It's Ohio State. It's Notre Dame. I'm sure it'll do a huge number. These are two brand powerhouses in college football. We will discuss and break down and preview the game in a little bit. We got a bunch of news headlines to talk about as well for once, Jake, finally. A huge piece of news broke right before we started taping the podcast. So, of course, we'll dive into that, get everybody ready for the weekend and, of course, that national championship game. But, as always, first things first, divisional playoff weekend in the NFL. The Lions Saturday night hosting the Washington Commanders. I can't wait. How are you, brother?
Hey, man, I'm doing absolutely fantastic. I mean, this is a big weekend in football, period. Obviously, college football coming to an end.
I know.
The national championship
Yep.
stage is set, man. Cannot wait to dive into that. And NFL playoffs, Lions hosting a playoff game. I mean, dude, this is just it's going to be awesome. So excited about this against my former employer. I mean, this is just it's a big weekend, man. It's going to be fun. Cannot wait for it all to happen. It's going to be great.
Awesome. It is going to be great. There's no doubt about it. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And, of course, go Lions. We'll talk about that in a little bit. This episode of Punt and Pass presented by both of our presenting sponsors. Look, it's the end of the year, so we're showing love to, of course, Solomon Brothers Jewelers. Check out Solomon Brothers Jewelers on social media, at Solomon Brothers on X and Instagram, SolomonBrothers.com. 3 amazing locations for you to choose from. Of course, Buckhead, 17th floor, Tower Place. Alpharetta, just past the Avalon, and the brand new location down south of the city in Sharpsburg. Solomon Brothers is the premier jewelry store in Atlanta. It's the only jewelry store you need. I promise this to you, people. When you go in store and you shop at any of those 3 locations, tell them Punt and Pass sent you. You can get up to 20% off your jewelry purchase. The in-store experience is unmatched. The staff is simply the best, and their diamond and jewelry and accessory selection is unparalleled. I love Solomon Brothers. My wife, more importantly, loves Solomon Brothers. You will love it too as soon as you go. Again, go in store, tell them Punt and Pass sent you. You will get 20% off your jewelry purchase. Shout out to Solomon Brothers. Again, SolomonBrothers.com. Check them out at Solomon Brothers on social media. Okay, let's start here. A couple of pieces of news broke around the University of Georgia football program. Of course, the season's done. Guys have until February 7th to enter the draft or announce that they're coming back. One of the players where some reports were coming out that he was going to return never actually made an announcement that he was going to return. And he made an announcement finally that he was declaring for the NFL draft. That, of course, running back Trevor Etienne, 2-year starter at Florida, transfer to Georgia, becomes an SEC champ, Jake, and announces over social media, hey, I'm going to the NFL draft. Appreciate it. I think this is probably the right decision. He dealt with a lot of injuries this past year, more so those nagging injuries, a rib injury. It's time to go, man. Running backs only have such a finite shelf life. Georgia running backs in particular, Jake, have done a really good job of playing quickly at the next level. So congrats to Trevor Etienne. Any surprises there?
Yeah, no, this is, I'm kind of 50-50 on this. I'm on the fence of whether it was a good decision, bad decision. I mean, like you said, for him being a running back, the shelf life is so small. That window of opportunity that they have, man, is really so small compared to other positions. So for him, if he felt that he is in the right spot mentally and physically, man, go get it. Take your opportunity. There is no time like the present. So, man, go for it. Go after it and go chase your dreams.
Yeah, a guy who I rely on heavily for a lot of my Georgia intel, Roddy Nabolsi over at UGA Sports. Of course, my boy Rusty Manziel as well over at Dogs HQ. I really look at everybody's reporting. And I found it interesting because a lot of the people, because there's so many folks covering Georgia football now, right after the Sugar Bowl, it sounded like Trevor Etienne was coming back. At least that's what the general feel was if you were following the Dogs on social media, so to speak. Well, he comes out and officially announces he's leaving for the NFL. And Roddy Nabolsi says, hey, we never once reported that at UGA Sports. We never once heard that he may or may not have been coming back. That's why we kept our mouths shut. And it's kind of the new day and age of people trying to get clicks and maybe trying to capitalize on jumping on a story that's too soon. So credit to all the outlets that did not say anything, and they ended up looking right when Trevor Etienne did end up declaring for the NFL draft. So again, congrats to Trevor. It'd be cool if him and Travis Etienne down there in Jacksonville got to play against each other. Pretty special for that family as well. Another brother duo that will surely be in the NFL together soon. Josh Downs, the receiver for the Colts, and Caleb Downs, who's playing this weekend. That dude's a freaking stud. He will definitely be in the NFL. So Trevor Etienne, congrats. Go get it in the NFL. Okay, we got to go back to the Carson Beck storyline. All right. Yes, we talked about Carson earlier this week on the podcast. Of course, he's now down at Miami. Some videos of him with his girlfriend on a yacht. He's got the brace on his elbow, living his best life, right? Travis Hunter comes out this week, Jake, and says 10 million NIL dollars. Where the hell's he getting this money? Kind of like throwing shade at Carson Beck, kind of questioning, is this figure real? Travis Hunter's like, I want a Heisman. I was one of the most marketable players in the country. I didn't get anywhere near $10 million. Travis Hunter actually said, maybe I should come back to school. Show me the money. I thought that was pretty funny. However, that's not what we're discussing, okay? USA Today Sports wrote an article on Wednesday morning that said explicitly, Jake Fromm, sources close to Carson Beck told USA Today Sports that when Carson put his name back in the transfer portal, Georgia called first. Georgia wanted him back. And not only did Georgia want him back, but so did Alabama, and Miami ended up winning his services. That's not true. I cannot believe that this guy got duped by a source close to, and I'm doing air quotes if you're watching on YouTube, a source close to Carson Beck. I went on the radio in Atlanta and I said, hey, sources close to Drew Butler say that the Detroit Lions have called him and said they want him to come punt for the playoffs. But hey, I'm too busy. Jake, this is crazy. This is clearly his agent or his team trying to spin up a positive PR campaign in light of all the heat that Carson Beck has been taking over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, just the simple, logical timing of events here is just kind of throwing me in a loop. This is something before he ever threw his name in the transfer portal hat. Like, there would have been a conversation had with CKS, Coach Kirby Smart. So a conversation would have been had of agreement, what will the fall look like, a number, yada, yada.
The whole conversation. Absolutely.
Whatever that is would have been had pre-name in the portal. So I can't speak on the Alabama side of things, but from the Georgia side of things, it just doesn't make any logical sense knowing the way CKS, Coach Kirby Smart, conducts business.
Okay, so here's the even funnier thing about this storyline, about the USA Today reporting that Georgia and Alabama reached out to Carson Beck as soon as he put his name back in the transfer portal. When Carson Beck put his name in the transfer portal, 4 days earlier or 5 days earlier, when it was reported that he was actually going to go back to college, he went into the transfer portal with a do not contact designation. Okay, that was widely reported. He put his name into the transfer portal, do not contact designation, meaning he's going to reach out to schools. His team is going to take care of business, and his team is going to figure out who's going to pay the most, where he's going to go play his final year of college. So the USA Today writer, I think his name is Matt Hayes, Spencer, this guy completely contradicts the reports of what they all said 5 days prior. It is crazy. There's no way this happened. And Jake, you're 100% correct. Surely after the SEC championship game, and without a doubt after the injury and the plan was put together for Carson to get surgery, his team, Carson Beck, Kirby Smart, any of the other support staff at Georgia, they most definitely had a sit down. Hey, what are your thoughts? Are you going to come back? Do you want to come back to Georgia? What would it look like? What are you thinking you'd want to make? Like, all these conversations absolutely happen. As soon as Carson Beck declared for the draft, I can 100% DB guarantee you that Georgia moved on. There's no way they called him back. Alabama didn't call him. It's crazy that people would pick up on this. And again, it just goes back to some of the things that rub people the wrong way about Carson Beck. And I would say it's not his fault, but the things that he does just bring so much negative attention on himself. It makes him an easy target, Jake.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said there. I'm right now. I was trying to put together the order of events of announcing publicly I'm declaring for the NFL, and then when he put his name in the portal. I don't know. I'm just so curious on kind of did it happen at the same time, knowing they were going to play both sides of it, or just knew he I'm burning this Georgia bridge and never want to come back. I don't know. To me, I think there's just some meat on this bone, and we can talk about it later, maybe when we have more information.
Yeah. This is the last thing I'll say on this. Georgia has had such a great lineage of quarterbacks, of signal callers, of leaders who fans can relate to. Like my very close buddy, Jake Fromm here, right? Houston County kid, Warner Robins kid, Little League star, QB1 on Netflix. But you were a great leader. You represented the university well. You won a shit ton of games. Like, obviously, all of those things endear yourself to the Georgia Bulldog faithful. So Carson Beck, and again, this is not his fault. This part's not. The Lamborghini, the NIL money,
the PJ.
Yes, the PJ deal. Good for him. I'd take a PJ deal right now as well. 3 interceptions, 3 games in a row, sitting on the sideline, not around your teammates, going up on the podium saying you don't watch football because it stresses you out, getting hurt, not being around your team. Those are the things where Georgia fans who live and breathe red and black, who spend all their disposable income on supporting Georgia, those are the things that turn them off almost immediately, right? Those are the things where, like, I can't relate to that guy. I don't support what's happening here. And again, like, it's just a new day and age. Who's going to turn down a Lambo and a PJ? Not many people. But then when you go up there and you say, I don't watch football, and your leadership style is so starkly different than what's come before you, I think that's the rub, Jake. And he's no longer at Georgia.
Yeah. Once again, I think you are hitting, the nail on the head. And I would just say, I don't want to, cross the line and speak for a large group of Georgia faithful fans here and say, but I just think they want you to want it as bad as they do.
100%.
100%. I hope that's okay. I hope, that's just common sense, but they want to feel like you care as much as they do. Right. And so I think that's just kind of maybe what they've kind of missed, maybe especially towards the end. So
that's just, Kirby.
What I'll say on that.
Kirby has talked about that out in the public. He's like, look, fans, myself, Kirby, an alumni of Georgia. His wife played hoops at Georgia. Like, the guy lives and breathes the University of Georgia. He's like, it's different now. These kids don't care. They don't care about the school. All they care about is the money. It's just a fact of life. Spencer, our awesome producer, he asks, and we talked about it a little bit on the last podcast, but does it hurt Beck's DGD honors? Of course it does. Like, that's the whole thing. Fans can't relate. Now he's gone. Now he's at Miami. The articles come out that Georgia wanted him back. I think that's total BS. It's just tough sledding. He's going to have a lot of people. He's going to have a lot of people watching very, very closely how he performs next year. Look, I hope he's healthy. I hope he does well. So Carson Beck.
No doubt.
Appreciate all the wins, man. You threw a lot of touchdowns at Georgia. Okay, this episode of Punt and Pass presented also by our awesome partners over at Prize Picks. That's right. Use the promo code PUNT. Download the Prize Picks app. When you use the promo code PUNT, you play your first $5 entry. You get $50 instantly in your account, win or lose. This is a perfect weekend to fire up the Prize Picks app, to download it if you haven't already. PGA Tour going on out in Palm Springs, college basketball, college football, national championship game, NBA, NHL, NFL. They have it all. All you got to do, pick 2 to 6 players, predict that they will go more or less in their stat projections, and you can win up to 1,000 times your entry. Download the Prize Picks app, use the promo code PUNT, tell a family member, tell a friend. All right, let's get to the big piece of news that broke right before we fired up this podcast. Of course, we'll get to the national championship game here in just a little bit. With all the NIL conversation we just had around Carson Beck, the House settlement, Jake, something that you're very familiar with. I want to get your thoughts on this.
Yep.
The House settlement, which is the class action lawsuit that has been agreed to in principle, that will allow universities to spend $20.5 million per year on their student athlete base directly. It's gotten a huge wrench thrown into it. Okay. The Department of Education, and Spencer, you can throw this graphic up for everybody who's watching our YouTube page. The Department of Education, 2 weeks before this agreement is supposed to be finalized, now says that Title IX does in fact apply to the House settlement revenue share payments that are to be made to college athletes, with a large percentage of the projected $20.5 million revenue cap set to go to men's football. This complicates things. There will be lawyers, says Andrew Brandt, a sports business insider on social media. So what is Title IX? It is the equity federal law that states colleges must provide equal opportunity and equal resources to female student athletes that they do to male student athletes. This comes into play with scholarships, Jake. This comes into play with training table, tutoring, all of the great benefits that you get as a student athlete. It can't overly swing towards just men and leave women out. Title IX, again, has been a federal law. This is not an NCAA law. This is a federal law that has brought women alongside men when it comes to college athletics. Now, the Department of Education is saying, whoa, 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 whoa. Before the schools start paying these student athletes directly, Title IX does in fact apply to these payments. So when you're thinking about a guy like Carson Beck, who's making a reported $4 million, we discussed it last week. Is he really going to get 20% of the cap, 20% of the entire pool of $20.5 million at Miami? Now it's almost a certainty that that would not happen if in fact those dollars were coming from the university themselves. Jake, this puts a huge, huge wrinkle into what was looked at as probably the way going forward for revenue share between universities and student athletes.
Yeah, I mean, this changes the game big time. I mean, this development just keeps on changing. Kind of the goal line keeps moving about, what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. Affects me. I am in this lawsuit right now.
Yeah, talk about that.
As we speak. So as you were talking, I'm pulling up my estimated allocation number.
This is from the House settlement, correct?
This is from the House settlement.
Gotcha.
Now,
which dates back 10 years because it's a class action lawsuit. So from 2024 back to 2014, you, of course, played during that time. I did not, so I cannot enter the House settlement. Continue.
Yep. So, and for whatever reason, this estimated number that I have is incorrect. There's some information that's not being relayed to them that they haven't calculated, and for whatever reason, it's me and one of my other close friends, but there's other guys that we've played with who have their number. I don't. And
it's an astronomical number. Theirs is astronomical compared to yours.
Compared to mine, yes.
Which is incorrect.
Yeah. So my number, I'll be completely transparent here. That's what we do here on the Punt Pass podcast. I have $2,500.
That's crazy.
Is my estimated settlement payment. So I'm
without naming names, explain a number that you know of somebody who is not a quarterback.
Yep. So for other people that I'm hearing right now, it's depending on kind of when you played. So NIL comes into effect, I think, in this 2021, 2022 season of where you can kind of get backtrack paid for NIL money here. So mine has nothing to do with NIL. It just has to do with broadcast, the TV right deal, the video game, compensation for athletic services payment, something to do with academics. But yes, it says here lost NIL, missed third-party NIL deals before July 2021 is not knowledgeable. There's nothing before pre-July 2021 has anything to do with NIL. So I don't have anything to do with NIL. What I'm hearing, sorry, back to the original deal of what I'm hearing numbers-wise from other players in a similar time period. I've heard 120, I've heard 180.
120,000.
Yep, 120,000, 180,000, 200.
These are not quarterbacks. $200,000. These are not quarterbacks.
The biggest number I've heard is $300,000. I'm pretty sure. I think
SEC, Big Ten.
I think it was Big Ten. Big Ten.
$300,000, and he was not a quarterback though. That's confirmed.
Yeah,
right?
I think
That's
no.
crazy, dude. And yours is $2,500. Something's wrong. I'm gonna reach out to some experts and figure out what's going on with yours because that's not right. That's incorrect.
Yep, I don't know. There's some information that's not getting relayed in there. Now, I mean, you have until January 31st to opt out of this deal. So,
okay.
With the information coming from, hey, we're going to split this, Title IX, will you see guys opt out, especially the pre-July 2021, especially quarterbacks who could have made some money with NIL. So I think there's stuff in the works. We'll see. Yeah. Maybe we might have more information on that coming at a later date. But dude, this is a very, very just ever changing. This is some very swift water, and it's choppy, and you just kind of have to figure it out as you go.
Yeah, I mean, like to just recap what's happening. The United States Department of Education and the Office for Civil Rights has made the conclusion that NIL compensation from the schools to the student athletes must be made proportionately available to male and female student athletes. It 100% changes the revenue share plans that everybody had agreed to. It's going to throw this thing into more and more litigation. It's going to backtrack this timeline big time. And to me, Jake, I have been saying this. Again, I worked in the NIL industry for almost 4 years. Did the first ever NIL deal with the Cavender twins, Boost Mobile, Icon Source in Times Square, July 1st, 2021. You can look it up. Okay. I had always said, and I talked to school administrators ad nauseum, I had always said, as soon as it gets close to universities, those Title IX lawyers are going to come after you hand over fist. Why? Because it is a federal law. This is not an NCAA law. The NCAA is dead. This is a federal law. They are going to throw the book at you. The Department of Education and the Office for Civil Rights just woke up and said, hold on, wait a minute.
Hold up, wait a minute.
And this thing is going to go haywire. There's no doubt about it. To me, I think it's laughable that the NCAA has consistently, even prior to 2021, begged the federal government for help. Help us, federal government. That is a comical approach to just about anything. And I've said this on the podcast many times. The only entity that is probably more dysfunctional or derelict in their duty than the NCAA is the one that they're asking for help, which is the federal government. Okay. So now the federal government is kind of screwing them over because this thing is not going to go through on the timeline. It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from the great Ronald Reagan. He said, what are the 9 scariest words in the English language? I'm from the government and I'm here to help. I mean, it just never works out, man. So that's exactly what is happening in this instance. I am fascinated to follow along here. Hopefully it was somewhat interesting for you, the listener, to kind of understand what's going on here. But all that being said, in June or July of this year, schools were supposed to be able to pay student athletes $20.5 million to their entire student athlete base and divvy it up how they want. Quarterback, point guard, kicker, and punter, hopefully. Now, the federal government has stepped in and said, not so fast, my friend.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell my wife Caroline to be looking for that email as well. to,
Yeah.
hey, enter your name here into this and get your share of the pie. So, man, this is it's crazy. It's such a interesting development, and we're going to have to follow this closely. Hopefully I can have some more and better information for our viewers moving forward. But yeah, I mean, something big I would expect to happen very close to this January 31st deadline, opt in, opt out. I mean, if you have people opting out, then the share of the pie gets bigger for everybody else.
Right.
So that's why all this is estimated to try to figure out who's in, who's out, and so on and so forth. So it's gonna be fun to follow.
Yeah, and to your point, like if people opt out, it doesn't matter if there's one person left for the entire piece of the pie if it doesn't get approved. And right now it seems like that is certainly
That's
up
true.
in the air. Okay, let's talk about Monday night. Yeah, it's a national championship game. Before we do that, quick reminder, this episode of Punt and Pass presented by both of our awesome partners. They've been amazing partners all season long. Solomon Brothers Jewelers and Prize Picks. We love them. They're Atlanta-based companies. They've been huge supporters of Punt and Pass over the years. We always appreciate our listeners showing love to Solomon Brothers and Prize Picks. At Solomon Brothers, at Prize Picks. When you're inside a Solomon Brothers store, tell them Punt and Pass sent you. You can get up to 20% off your jewelry purchase. And when you download the Prize Picks app, use the promo code PUNT. When you play your first $5 entry, you instantly receive $50 in your account, win or lose. All right, right here in Atlanta, Monday night, 7:30 p.m. kickoff, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It is the College Football Playoff National Championship game presented by AT&T. You know who's in it by now. 8 seed Ohio State taking on 7 seed Notre Dame. Right now, Ohio State an 8-point favorite. The total is 46. Of course, it's on ESPN. They'll have all those crazy simulcasts and broadcasts and alternate casts, which, of course, is fun to watch. It's supposed to be super cold here on Monday, Jake, like lows in the teens. So I wonder how that will affect the outside activities pregame. But from what I heard today, it's Thursday as we're recording this, downtown Atlanta already has a buzz around it. The Ohio State people are here. Notre Dame folks are coming in droves. Should be a pretty good game. I mean, as we said on the earlier this week's episode, these are two of the biggest brands in all of college football.
Yeah, no doubt about that. What kind of caught my attention there was about it being cold down there in Atlanta, which is crazy. This past weekend, we come home, we got a bye week in the playoffs, and it's just snowing everywhere in Atlanta and in Athens. We get back up to Detroit, obviously snow everywhere. On Monday night in Detroit, the high is 9 degrees, the low is 3, and on Tuesday, the high is 8, the low is -2. So it's going to be
my goodness
cold up here in Detroit. I just had to just relay that information. Me and Caroline were sitting on the couch last night, and we saw that. We're like, wow, boys, we got to settle in here to this house, and we're going to have to hunker down. So it's getting very cold. But back to the game. I mean, like you said, 2 huge brands in college football. And this is going to be a very, very fun game to watch, man. Ohio State, one of the most talented put together teams in the country.
Yeah, you're big on them right now.
I really am. I was such a hater. They lose to Michigan. And then, man, when they responded and just beat the dog crap out of Tennessee, I'm like, you know what? Wait a minute. Hold up. Wait a minute. This team not only is talented, but it looks like they're made of the right stuff as well. And they just shut the noise, they closed the blinds, and they said, hey, I don't care what the outside noise is. This is about us and what we want to do and what we want to accomplish. And man, right now they're taking care of business. And it's going to be tough to stop the Ohio State football train right now. And that train will keep on going, and it will be leaving on Monday night.
Oh, okay. So, Texas technically did slow him down. I mean, Jeremiah Smith, 1 catch for 3 yards. Emeka Egbuka, he had 5 catches for 51 yards. And we're quick to forget Texas was down there 1 yard line about to score and tie the game up with 2 minutes left to potentially put that one into overtime. Of course, it is the game of football. That did not happen. Jack Sawyer sack fumble, legendary play. He houses it, cribs it, and Ohio State ends up winning that game by 14 points to make it to the national championship game. But this line opened up. I mean, some books opened it up at 10.5. Ohio State as a favorite. It has been steadily brought down, settling in at 8 right now. And Notre Dame was 10-2 against the spread in the regular season. They've covered 3 straight games in the college football playoff. You got to give Ohio State credit. They've covered as well. They drubbed Tennessee. They smoked Oregon. And, of course, they covered with that strip sack fumble against Texas. The Buckeyes have played 6 ranked opponents this season. They're 5-1 straight up and against the spread against those 6 ranked opponents. So they definitely do step up in big games. And I think the story here, though, are the defenses. Ohio State, number 1 ranked in total defense in the country. I mean, their defense is elite. There's no question about it. Notre Dame, not far behind them at 9th, but Notre Dame is 5th in the nation in turnover margin, Jake. They're plus 17. We've talked about it. Highly opportunistic team. They take advantage of those turnovers. They're very sound in situational football, and that's how you certainly make these games closer. Yeah, I saw this statistic, and I almost couldn't believe it. Penn State did not complete a pass to a wide receiver against Notre Dame last week. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I saw that stat going around, and I couldn't believe it when I saw it, when I read it, and then when it just keeps showing up from different sources, you're like, wow, maybe this has legs, and that's just crazy to think that secondary could do it. Maybe it's part of Penn State's plan. Was it the secondary just absolutely strapping the receivers? I have no idea. To me, I'm just dumbfounded at how that could happen in a college football game at that level of that magnitude.
Yeah, what? Just tight ends and running backs? That's crazy.
Now they are very, very talented at those 2 positions. So, hey, I would try to throw number 44,
Penn State. Yes,
Tyler Warren, as many balls as I possibly could. I mean, that dude is a dog and an absolute playmaker. So I get it from that standpoint. But kind of what you were alluding to about the turnover margin, that the bigger the game, the bigger the stage, just the utmost importance on the little things, the fundamentals, technique, details, things like the turnover battle, things like, hey, 3rd down percentage, things about scoring touchdowns in the red zone. It all comes down to these little things, and you can see them being won and you can see them being lost. There's going to be some ebbs and flows in this game, but whatever team handles adversity best, ultimately is going to win this football game. I know I've talked about it a lot, but with Ohio State being so talented, you were talking about Jeremiah Smith catching 1 ball for 3 yards. Okay, that's not going to happen in this football game, but they're so talented. Hey, it's just the next guy up. Hey, I'll take care of it. I know I have one-on-one coverage because this guy's getting, 2 sets of eyes or maybe even 3 sets of eyes. And I'll take care of it and I'll catch this 3rd down pass. So there's so much going on, so much to watch. And it's going to be very, very fun to watch these 2 transfer quarterbacks go and play and two guys who I'm, very, very fond of. And I think play the position the right way.
I find it interesting, and I tweeted this out the other day because a video came out of Marcus Freeman's halftime speech when they had just kicked that field goal to bring it to 10-3 halftime of the Orange Bowl. They're down there against Penn State, and you would expect some fiery speech, right? Scream at these guys, get them going, but that's not what he said. He said, hey, this is a fight. We're made to fight. We're prepared to fight. And then he said, here's what we need to do in the second half. We need to run the ball. We need to stop the run. Let's go play football. That's all he said. And I go, it's so brilliant. You and I talk about this ad nauseum on the podcast. In the biggest moments, when the most is on the line, you go back to the fundamentals. Be great on 3rd down, right? Score touchdowns in the red zone. Win the turnover battle. Run the ball. Stop the run. It's football. It's not rocket science. So I find it fascinating how a lot of people, and of course you can get caught up in this because you have so much time before a national championship game, are going to break down every nitty gritty statistic and get so in the details on what can happen and what should go down when in reality, and when in the heat of the moment, the head coach of Notre Dame is simply saying, run the ball, stop the run, and we'll win the game. And that's exactly what they did. They came out, they pounded the rock. They got that 7.5-minute drive. Jeremiah Love woke up. They scored a touchdown. It was 10-10. And then all of a sudden, an entirely different ball game happens. I'd love to ask you, as a quarterback who's not only played in a national championship game, but in this very stadium, Mercedes-Benz, like, what is that What is that lead up like? How are you managing the emotions? How are you managing the expectations, the media, all the outside noise that happens when you're trying to get ready for a national championship game?
Yeah, you're constantly being pulled in so many different directions. Media this, media that, in extra meetings, people want to talk. And you're just doing your best to kind of shut all the outside noise, focus on whatever your job is, your task. And for me, I always try to get lost in the preparation of it. You know, hey, go find my tape, my cut up, and let's watch third downs. Hey, let's throw on a game. Let's see the flow and how the game gets called. So for me, it was always trying to get back to, hey, preparation. How can I prepare a little bit more? So when I see, this coverage, when I see this guy, he's not in a 5 technique. He's more of in a wide 9. What can I expect? Or this guy's a little tighter. Maybe there's, a safety blitz coming off the edge. There's so many different things that for me that I tried to get caught up in, and that was more football related than the
Right.
distractions. So, man, this is hey, who can really kind of shut out all the extra stuff the best and focus on the little things, the details, and the simple thing of just doing your job. That's our secret sauce this
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
That we've been talking about. Hey, man, just you don't have to do anything more. You don't have to do anything less. Just do your job. Do what's brought us here to this moment. I think there's so much wisdom in that, especially for these teams and these quarterbacks. You don't have to go be anything you're not. You don't have to play, like Superman.
Yep.
You don't have to throw for 500 yards, man. Just do your job, execute the play in front of you, and let the rest take care of itself.
Keep it simple, stupid. It's what do they say? The simple thing is not always easy. I believe that's the old saying, right? Doing simple well is not necessarily easy. And when you can keep it simple leading up to such a big game and a big moment for two teams who are not familiar with this moment or this entire lead up to a national championship game, I think that's definitely important. I'm leaning towards Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's certainly going to keep it close. But here is the caveat, okay? They've got to slow down Ohio State out of the gates. Get this, Jake. Ohio State has played 3 college football playoff games, right? In their first 3 drives in each of those games, against Tennessee, against Oregon, and against Texas, those first 9 drives, Ohio State has scored 6 touchdowns on those first 9 drives. They come out firing. They score early. They get up. They demoralize their opposition. I mean, what was it? Oregon, it was 28-0 at one point,
Oh, it was
or whatever it was. I mean, Tennessee,
Oh, yeah.
Jeremiah Smith show early. Texas did slow them down early, but out of their first 9 possessions, first 3 of each college football playoff game, the Buckeyes have scored 6 touchdowns. If Notre Dame can hold the line early, we will have a football game. There's no doubt about it. The Irish have to start fast on defense. They cannot allow Ohio State to come out there, quick drive, and put 7 points on the board. I just like Marcus Freeman. I've become a Marcus Freeman fan throughout the playoff. I'm also an Al Golden fan, their defensive coordinator. Notre Dame's defense flies downhill. They're violent. Their front 7 is highly disruptive, and they just find ways to win football games. I think Riley Leonard is going to be dangerous with his legs. And again, I've talked about it. It's not that fast twitch style. It's just things break down. He finds 4 yards. He finds 7 yards. He moves the chain. The clock keeps running. I think Notre Dame's going to drag Ohio State into the mud, Jake. Give me those 8 points for sure. And I would not be surprised if they win the game. With the caveat being, if Ohio State starts early, it could be 41-10.
Yeah,
really
man. That early Ohio State start is it's scary almost.
Yeah.
Like what they were able to do early in football games, jump out, get ahead, and then let these defensive ends go and sack and get the quarterback. So I was just thinking, Marcus Freeman played ball at
Ohio State.
I mean, do you think there's this kind of emotional drainage that kind of comes with that? Do you think to me, it just kind of depends on how he channels it and how he uses
like a killer. He seems like he doesn't even care. Yeah. It's fascinating.
I was just curious how do you think
I was listening to a show today. I forget who it was. Oh, it was Taylor Zarzer on PGA Tour Radio, also from the SEC network. I believe this is who I was listening to. And they were at an event in South Beach, maybe for the Orange Bowl. and they were around all of these Notre Dame dignitaries. And Marcus Freeman was there, stopped by, top boosters, top alumni. And obviously Notre Dame has an alumni list that's, at the top of any list. And he said that these dignitaries, these alumni, these huge boosters look at Marcus Freeman as one of their own. Like, he got them back to the top of the game. They have completely embraced him. They don't even think about him having been an Ohio State alumni. Now, the fact that he's playing his alumni for a national championship, that certainly throws a wrinkle in it. Surely College Game Day is going to have a piece on it and discuss who he played with, when he played there, who his teammates were, X, Y, and Z. But when I think of Marcus Freeman, now the first thing I think of is certainly Notre Dame football.
Yeah, no doubt. I think I do too. And if Notre Dame is able to pull this off and get this win, I think it would just
be incredible.
Be a little extra icing on the cake for him to be able to do it against his alma mater and feel like he beat the top team in college football.
Yeah,
that year, 100%.
Definitely. So your pick? Are you laying 8 points with Ohio State? You think
100%? Yeah.
Oh,
Give me
wow.
that
with conviction.
Yeah,
Jake Strong says Ohio State.
Sometimes you got to think logically. Sometimes you think with your heart.
Yeah.
This week is just not one of those weeks to think with my heart for me. So I'm thinking logically with my head, and it's going to be tough to stop this train. And I think, just like you said, just like you mentioned, of getting off to a fast start, they're capable of doing that and winning in so many different ways. Give me Ohio State.
That brings me back to one of my favorite quotes from Bruce Arians, who was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, and I was in Arizona. It was during our playoff run. He had made a play or a play call, and it was a huge success. And a reporter asked him, like during a Wednesday press conference, they were like, in the middle of a game, when you're going to call a play like that with just such high risk, high reward, do you just trust your gut? And Bruce Arians said, trust my gut. He said, hell no, I don't trust my gut. That son of a bitch has been lying to me for 50 years.
That's awesome.
That's the best. I love it.
That's
I
awesome.
love it. BA is the man. So, all right, I'm on Notre Dame. Jake's on Ohio State. Going to be a great game in Atlanta Monday night. Two powerhouse brands. Hopefully, it's a good matchup. I think it's going to be a good matchup. Jake says Ohio State's going to mop the floor with the Fighting Irish and continue their dominant run throughout the college football playoff. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We, of course, will have a recap episode for you early next week after the game. Hopefully the Lions will be getting ready for an NFC Championship game, which, of course, everybody will be rooting them on Saturday night against the Commanders. Major shout-out to our two presenting sponsors, Solomon Brothers Jewelers at Solomon Brothers on social media, solomonbrothers.com. Go to one of the stores, 3 locations, Buckhead, Alpharetta, and Sharpsburg. Mention Punt and Pass, and you can get up to 20% off your jewelry purchase. And, of course, Prize Picks. That's right. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code PUNT, P-U-N-T, PUNT. You can get $50 instantly placed into your account when you play your first $5 entry, win or lose. So many options over on Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code PUNT. Check them out on social media at PrizePicks, prizepicks.com. Anything on the way out, my man?
Man, I'm good. I think I said it all. Can't wait to watch this game.
Can't wait. Follow us on social media at Punt and Pass, at Drew Butler, at From Jake, puntandpass.com. Have a great weekend, everybody. We will talk to you next week. See ya.
We out.